Okay, looks like we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special interview today. I'm calling it Healing from Within. We are talking all about two very powerful and important healing tools with one of my mentors and hypnotherapy instructors, Mary Lee LaBay. So, Mary Lee, thank you so much for being here with me today. I would love for us to introduce ourselves to everyone, and then we'll get into a discussion. So I'll go first. My name's Jodie Solberg, and I am not only a certified master hypnotherapist, but also a transpersonal wellness coach as a graduate of Mary Lee's programs. And my background in hypnotherapy actually goes back quite a ways. I first became a hypnotherapist. I was trained clinically when I was in graduate school for clinical psychology way back in 2001, and have been working therapeutically as well as coaching with women in business ever since then. And I actually ran those two sides of my career very separately for many, many years. And then back in 2018, I decided I wanted to start working virtually, and I wanted to start my own private practice where I could work from anywhere with people anywhere. And so I actually sought out Mary Lee because I'd known about her actually for quite some time. I had friends who had trained with her at Bastyr University and Bellevue College, and she's of course written textbooks on hypnotherapy. So I did know of her being local as well as being a student over the years. And I sought her out specifically to be able to learn. I knew she was, someone who was in authority in the field. I also knew that she was working virtually, and I wanted to learn how to do that. And actually, it was really fortuitous timing because I was planning on going in person. I don't know if you remember this, Mary Lee, but I was planning on going in person to the training. And I think it was the first time that you actually offered it online as well. And right before the class, and the class was in November, it was this time of year. And I actually had a knee injury in October. I tore my knee and I was on crutches until February. And so I actually ended up attending online as well. And so that was my first experience with that type of continuing education online too. And it actually was a great segue into what I wanted to do. And so that is how we met. And we have been working together, and I've been learning from you ever since. And I'm just so grateful to have you here sharing with us. So would love for you to introduce yourself and tell everyone about your depth of experience in our field.
Well, thank you. And it's just a joy to be here. It's always fun. Whatever we do together is fun.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, like you said, I've been teaching at Bastyr and Bellevue College. Now all of my trainings are online, which has been really, really fun because I do have students from all over the world. We've had South Africa, Europe, um, uh, Mexico, Central America, all over the place. I have two people from Australia who are planning to sign up for the January course, so that's going to be fun. But a little bit about me. I came from a very spiritually oriented background, studying astrology and tarot and, consciousness expansion, metaphysics, philosophy, all of that. And then I became trained in past life regression back in the 1980s, and did that for a while along with psychic readings and sponsoring psychic fairs. And then I was introduced to hypnotherapy. And when I took my certification course, I realized what a match made in heaven the hypnotherapy and past life regression. And I also felt that when I was doing psychic readings, and I used tarot and astrology and intuition, as I do that, I can tell people what I see in the stars or the cards, and I can advise them. but then they go off in their life and it's like, okay, well, that's a lot of information. But what are they going to do with that? How do they integrate that into who they are? And so the hypnotherapy was the perfect segue into really getting into those deeper blocks and personality traits, habits, addictions, whatever relationship issues, and taking that information, but now using hypnotherapy to actually make that shift in a person's psyche, in their energy, and their will to transform and to grow. So that's a beautiful marriage. But I really started marketing myself more on the hypnotherapy side of things because I felt that that work was just so valuable and essential for mankind, to really make those changes and move into the lifestyle that a person might want, right? So along the way, I've written 6 books. I have here my 6th book is Mastering Hypnotherapy, this beautiful book. And it feels good too. It's really soft, kind of velvety cover. I don't know what they did to this paper, but it covers all the different techniques that I train people in, and it's used as a textbook for courses around the world. A lot of other people are buying these books for their students as well. I've also written a book on how to do past lives for, it's called Past Life Regression, a guide for practitioners. But I also wrote a book for the general public. Can't quite figure out how to turn this. Exploring Past Lives, Your Soul's Quest for Consciousness. And this one is for everybody, and it talks all about past lives and exploring and gives case studies and things. So that's my background, I guess. I also have a PhD in behavioral psychology, and I'm a member of Mensa. I have a few other credentials. I have some certifications in lots of other techniques, more certifications then. But anyway, I'm happy to be here and sharing my knowledge. I love teaching and working with students and nurturing them so that they can learn these techniques that I have honed and evolved over, close to 25 years now that I've been in the hypnotherapy practice, and really have honed and evolved a lot of techniques into a unique presentation. And then with the certification, I take all these different trainings that I've learned and all these techniques I've learned over these years and put it into the course so that people coming through the training don't have to do what I did, which was taking, multiple courses just to gather up all of these techniques and tools. So anyway, thank you for having me here today. And that's all I need to say about me.
You're so welcome. Yes, there's so much to say. And I love that you and I come from very different backgrounds. We came to hypnotherapy in very different ways.
Mhm.
And at the same time, I felt so aligned always with how client-centered you and your teachings are. That was very, very important to me, that we're taking these different tools and techniques and fitting them to the client versus, taking, a script or one formula and trying to fit all of our clients into that. So that was definitely something where I was very aligned, with the way that you teach, because I do think it is so important to have all these tools in our toolbox that then we can customize for each person.
Exactly.
And so 2 of those that I wanted to talk about today that I think are so powerful and so important in the work that we do are parts therapy, for one, and then secondary gains. Because I know that so many people have inner conflict right? So
Mhm.
many people have that inner critic that likes to rear its ugly head. And also, people don't realize there's a reason why we keep doing the things that we're doing, even though often we know that they're not the most healthy coping mechanisms, for example. And so, which one would you like to start with? Which do you think, is the beginning piece
Yeah.
of this conversation?
So I typically start first of all, those two tools are probably tools that I use in 99, maybe 98% of
Too.
my sessions, because the fact that a person walks in the door and needs your help means that there is either some kind of inner conflict or self-sabotage, right? I know I want to achieve this, and I'm not getting there. So, is there a block? Is there a self-sabotaging behavior? What is the inner script? What is running behind the scenes that require outside help to guide them forward? And so, there's a kind of an assumption that we can use these tools in almost any situation, anytime you're making decisions, or like we talk about self-sabotage and inner conflict. So I start with the secondary gains, because with secondary gains, what we're looking for are the benefits and the detriments of this behavior. In other words, how are they operating in your world? And this is also going to give us information that will help us to set up the parts therapy. So those two tools, while they're separate tools, they also really are a beautiful marriage going hand in hand. So with secondary gains, just to explain a little bit, and this will be a tool that you could implement right away, is there's 4 questions. So you figure out what is the behavior. So let's say it's procrastination, right? I know I need to get my studying done, but I keep putting it off, or I need to get this project done at work, and I can't get around to it. So you would ask yourself, what is the benefit of procrastinating, even if that sounds odd? And some of the issues that we work with, it's very odd to ask that question, but what is the benefit of procrastinating? And they'll give you some answers, or you'll give your own self answers if you're applying this to yourself. And you want to really be thoughtful, or have your client be very thoughtful about this, so that they can dig a little deeper in coming up with answers. And so then, what is the detriment of procrastinating? So how is this showing up poorly in your life? How is this tripping you up? How is this blocking you? So, the ways that it's showing up negatively in your life. Then you ask the client or yourself, what would be the benefit of not procrastinating? And then you would list all of those answers. And then what would be the detriment of not procrastinating? And you would answer all of those, list all those answers. So by the time you finish, you have a little bit broader idea of what's happening. Oftentimes with procrastination, you'll hear things like, well, it allows me to just rest, and I just want to do what I want to do. I need to catch up on the latest episode of my favorite soap opera. Um, um, I'm angry at my spouse because I'm doing these things and they are not. You can come up with a lot of answers there. Or the detriments might be, I'm in trouble at work, or I don't get my schooling assignments done. I might lose my job, fighting with my spouse all the time. I mean, there's all these things. But once that has been brought up and everything is laid out, now we have two sides of an argument, right? We have the part that benefits from procrastination and would be a problem if they didn't do it. So it would be the question 1 and 4, the benefit of procrastination and the detriment of not doing it. That would go on one hand. And on the other hand would be the part that there is a detriment to procrastination and a benefit to not procrastinating. And that would go on the other hand. So you have one axis in parts therapy. There are a lot of schools who teach that parts therapy might be a big conference table with 5 or 10 people there, parts of yourself. And to me, that just gets messy because really, if you hone it down, it's one axis. You're either going to procrastinate or not, and so instead of having some part of you that represents your emotions or other aspirations, whatever, it's all just going to be here on this one hand. The emotional, psychological, physical, spiritual reasons that are happening there, and then the reasons over here. So with parts therapy, we want to separate those two parts on either one of our hands. And so I used to say, okay, put this one on this hand and the other, side on this hand. But now I allow my client to determine which hand, because everything is everything. And so we can get some information there. Is it on the dominant hand or is it on the less dominant, all of that. So they put the parts on each hand, and then we set up a conversation. So the part that wants to procrastinate gets to talk. And the problem with trying to do this just in a normal everyday situation is that, when we have this inner conflict, we're arguing with ourselves and we interrupt ourselves. Oh, I really shouldn't eat that cookie, but I want it. And there it is. It's in my mouth already. Right. And so there's never an end to the conflict. They never come to a peaceful resolution. So this way, the part that wants to procrastinate gets to express itself, its feelings, its fears, its, the roots of it, whatever it needs to talk about in defense of procrastinating. And we respectfully listen to that. And then we go to the other side, and that side gets to fully express what it needs, and why it thinks this is the better choice. And so we go back and forth, respectfully taking turns without interrupting each side until they come to an agreement. And, with the topic of procrastination, oftentimes there's some kind of need in there, like, but I just need some me time. I need some time that, I don't have obligations and responsibilities or something like that. So within that conversation, you can start looking at, well, how can we create that space for you? How can we get your needs met, but not do it at a time when you need to get something done, right? So like, how do we negotiate that? So maybe you get up a little earlier and you have an hour to yourself in the morning that nobody can tell you what to do. And then you get on with your day and, all that part of you is satisfied. And so now you don't have to put off your obligations, and so whatever kind of negotiating or satisfaction we can find within that. And then they come together in this agreement. Okay, I agree that we're going to set aside an hour where I can do anything I want. And I agree that I'm not going to procrastinate on my projects, and so then they bring that together. And then I like to do a little exercise of integrating that into their body, their heart, their mind, and their energetic field. So it usually sticks. If you go through those two processes, there's sometimes there are other deeper issues that also need to be addressed. So then we need to go into past lives or object imagery or inner child or chair therapy, some of the other tools to release some of that. But those are those two tools. So,
Yes,
Jodie,
those are
turn it over
so
to you.
important. Oh my goodness. Well, like you said, we do this so often within ourselves. We have these little arguments back and forth and we self-sabotage. And so what I have found to be so powerful, with these techniques is, like you said, you can slow things down, you can separate things out and really process through it. Most people, if you ask them just consciously, well, what's the benefit of you doing whatever it is that they're doing, right? What all of those examples that you gave, they'll say, "Oh, there's no benefit; it's all bad." It's not true. And
Or
at that
not true.
subconscious level, there is a reason why they are continuing to do that. And like you said, it could be, somebody smoking. It's like they feel like that's how they get their breaks.
Mm-hmm.
It could be something,
Exactly.
as simple as that, where they're not realizing that, oh, that gives me some me time, it feels almost like self-care for them.
Right.
And they think, well, if I don't smoke, I'm not going to get a break. And that may be why they're self-sabotaging, even though they know that it's not good for their physical health, even though there's a lot of other detriments to it, there's some kind of a benefit. There's something that we're getting out of doing these things. And so, a lot of times our subconscious is trying to protect us from feeling bad, or, there's a hidden motive. And this is such a great way to find that. And then, like you said, to figure out, okay, what is going to be a way to resolve this where all the different parts of ourselves can feel good about it? It can be a win win, but there has got to be some compromise there. And like, so we typically won't do that. We'll just say, oh, no, I really shouldn't do that. Oh, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like you said, with the
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we
Right.
we don't slow things down enough. And for us as practitioners, what's really wonderful is getting to witness that and be almost like that mediator of like, okay, so you get a chance to talk without interruption. Because how often do we get a chance to just feel like we're being heard completely? And
Yeah.
that can be really powerful in and of itself. And to be able to acknowledge ourselves, to have that heightened awareness of what's going on inside of us, and then being able to acknowledge the different parts within ourselves and really hear them out. And then to come up with that resolution and that integration as well. Such an amazing experience to be able to at least fully integrate. Not like, okay, well, I say I'm going to do this on a surface level, but no, really, I have a plan. I feel good about it. There's not a part of me inside that's screaming and saying, no, I don't want to do that anymore. That gives us such a chance to be successful. And
Right.
so, yeah, these are definitely techniques, like you said, that most of the time we're going to be using, but they're also still very customized to each person because each person is different and they're going to have a different challenge. They're going to have different ways that these things are operating in their lives. And so this is where I tell my clients, okay, we get to talk to ourselves and it's totally fine. Right?
Mhm.
You get to work it out and it's okay, right? There's ways that they can do this. And so once clients have been through this with me, it's so much easier for them to self-coach and to understand what's going on within themselves because they become more self-aware.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And some of the answers people come up with are surprising to them
Yeah.
once you dig deeper. And when people say, "Oh, there's no benefit, it's all bad." I mean,
Mhm.
if you're asking what's the benefit of this chronic disease you have, right? They're gonna say nothing is good, or smoking, there's nothing good about it. But
Right.
as you dig deeper and deeper, you'll start to see some of those underlying needs that they have, like losing weight. Oh, there's nothing good about having this extra weight. But then as you dig deeper, it's a feeling of protection. And if I lost the
Mhm.
weight, I might have unwanted attention, or um, something like that. I had a client that came to me, and he's an artist, and he came to me to quit smoking. And I said, what else is a benefit? We went through a few things, and then it was like, oh, nothing more. And I said, just dig a little deeper. Is there any other benefit? And he said, oh, wow, I never thought about this, but my role model in art is Norman Rockwell. And I saw a self-portrait of him, and he's smoking. And
Mhm.
so deep in his subconscious mind, he said, I realized that I feel that I'm not really an artist unless I smoke.
Wow.
And so then we had to do, some therapy around that. So these techniques will bring it up and hopefully resolve it. But then, like I said, we have other techniques that then we go in and we dig deeper into something like that, where we can uncouple his
Mhm.
connection between being an artist and smoking, and so he could realize that was an artificial connection that he had made, and that he could be an artist without the smoking. And he was able to quit in one session just because of that realization that he didn't have a cigarette in his hand to be a good artist.
Mhm.
Um,
It's interesting. Like you said, people don't put those connections together because it's not always logical, right? Our subconscious,
mhm,
often it's emotional, or it reminds you of something else, or you make this connection at an earlier age. And we don't even realize what is going on behind the scenes. I had a client who had chronic migraines really since childhood,
ooh,
honestly. And they had done every test imaginable on her and really couldn't figure out why she was having these. And what we found out using these techniques is that she had had so much pressure and expectation put on her as a child, and then continued to put it on herself, that when she would have these migraines, she would get to go lay down in the dark and quiet and be
right,
alone. And between her job and her business and her kids and her husband, and then all the pressures that she was putting on herself, that was the only time that she got a break from
right.
all of it. And
Wow,
so that is exactly what was happening, is her body was giving her that break that she really needed, that she wasn't allowing herself to have in any other way. And so we were able to uncover that through these are the secondary gains and the parts
mhm,
therapy. And of course, we went on to some object imagery and clearing some of those things out, and then really helping her to create a plan moving forward, of course, to give herself those breaks and to release some of those pressures and expectations, because they were just crushing her, physically and mentally and emotionally. And so you never know, what is going to come up for someone. And that was it, is like, no, you have to achieve, you have to do these things, you can't stop. It was the one part. You
right,
you just, you have to do all the things and be all the things to all the people all the time. And the other side was like, I just can't do it. I
yeah,
need a break. I
it's
deserve time for
impossible.
myself. And I was like, okay, let's, bring those two parts together and feel good about who you are and what you are doing, and to give yourself that time to have that break so that you aren't, just shutting yourself down physically when you get too overwhelmed and too burnt out.
Right,
And that is, something I see a lot. I do deal with a lot of, and always have in my career, a lot of trauma, anxiety, burnout, a lot of heaviness that people
mhm,
able to put into their bodies. Right? And so not only are we going to see it manifest in those habits and those patterns, but then also physically. A lot of times our bodies hold on to all of these things, and those are the signs that we need to make a change, but
right,
we are so conditioned to override, 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 just push through, keep going. that we don't realize that these things are happening. And so there's so many different ways I feel like secondary gains in part therapy can be applied in
Right.
so many different areas, like you said, from habits and addictions, emotional eating and smoking and things of that nature, to some of these, chronic conditions that have that psychological component. And of course, there's always things in our work lives or relationships. We're whole people. And that's one of the things that I have loved with working with you is you really do approach people as whole people.
Hmm.
And I think that that's so important that, their challenges don't exist on a little island somewhere. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. There's things that can contribute that we would not even ever think, like the Norman Rockwell painting, right?
Right.
We never would have thought that that would contribute to smoking if you're just thinking about it. But then when you start diving deeper, there's things that we just saw or heard or experienced, someone said to us, or we saw a picture that literally affect us every single day. And it was just a snapshot of a moment.
Right. Well, and when you talk about the correlation between stress and then how it affects our physical body, there was a research paper that I read years ago when I was preparing my dissertation. The paper was, or the research was by Suzanne Segerstrom and Richard Miller, and they did a 30-year study with a lot of people. I think it was over 1,000 people, and they followed them and tracked the specific stressors that they had in their life to track what the physical condition and disease they would develop later in life. And they drew direct correlations, like this specific stressor will cause this specific disease later on. And I think about that all the time because, I mean, life is full of stress. And, as we go through our lives and we let that build up in ourselves, I take a step back and I think, is whatever is going on more important, so important that I'm willing to risk my future health with, a cancer or some other kind of condition,
Mhm.
because this moment is so stressful? Or can I step back, say no, let go of things that I think are my responsibilities, figure out which ones do I really need to respond to, and how can I do this in a way that isn't stressful? How can I just go with the flow in life and get things done, but not build up this stress about it? For my future self, I'm paying it forward to me, to lower the stress. And so when people are filled with anxiety, it's so important to take care of it right away and address
Mhm.
that and be done with it, rather than just having that be a pattern in life, anxiety or stress or
Mhm.
worry and these different things. So, yeah, so we
Absolutely.
have lots of tools in order to just get this taken care of right away.
Definitely. Well, I know how valuable your trainings are. And so I would love for you to share about what you are teaching. I know you have some courses coming up and you're wrapping one up now and you have one in the new year. So please share with everyone what you are offering.
Okay. So I've been teaching, I became a certified teacher of hypnotherapy in 1999. And as we talked about earlier, over a period of 20 years, I taught at both, not all those 20 years, but at Bellevue College and at Bastyr University for years on end within that 20 years. And then just before COVID, I took all the courses and put them online, and decided to do this on my own instead of through the schools. But over those years, I honed the material, the types of techniques, the presentation and everything, to really be at that level where the universities felt that that was an amazing course. And so I've taught hundreds and hundreds of people over the years. And so this course is now online, and it comprises of two. In the past, I had two courses. One was the hypnotherapy, and one was past life regression. But I realized that they really are hand in hand. They need to be put together, because the issues that people come to us with oftentimes have roots in past lives, or a person may just spontaneously go into a past life in the session. And so I wanted my students to, and my graduates, to be trained properly so that they could handle any situation that came to their office. And and then also with past life regression, we can do a sightseeing tour. Sure, you can take a person through a past life, but the way that I approach past lives is that we have trauma and we have situations in those other lifetimes that we need to integrate and smooth out and heal. And so if you're doing past lives in a proper way, you also need all of the hypnotherapy tools in order to effectuate those types of healings and exploration that is going to really benefit the client in this lifetime. So I put the two trainings together, and that's what's offered. And so you can go through the entire training from beginning to end and get certified just online. But in addition to that, I offer a series of Zoom calls that are there for support. So we gather together. So if, for instance, if you were to sign up even today, you would be able to start studying right now. But then when I offer the calls, you're invited to come to those. And so the next one will start January 23rd. I'm just finishing up a group now. So the next calls will start January 23rd, and they'll go for 9 weeks. They're going to be on Tuesday mornings on Pacific time. And we come together for 2 hours. And during that time, I answer all your questions about the material. If you're, having questions about your practice sessions, I give demonstrations. I teach even more techniques than is in the course. I also add some other techniques in the calls. And so that it creates community, and we have people have the opportunity to really get their questions answered. And so, and then in addition to that, we have a private Facebook page where you can continue to circulate within the community. You can put questions up, you can announce whatever you're doing. You can add, you can help answer questions for other students. And we just keep all of that going in that direction, or in a successful direction. So anyway, you'd have to look on the website to see all the bonuses. And right now, in November, we do have a special. So you'll see that when you go to the website, you'll see that right now in November, it's 20% off. You get an hour session with me, which is valued at $300. And you get a copy of my book, Mastering Hypnotherapy. So right now is a really good bonus. And then in December, you'll get some bonuses, but the discount will be less. So right now is the best time to do it, but December will also have another special, but not quite as good. So you might want to check it out really soon.
Yes, good timing. Well, I put the link in for everyone. So as one of your past graduates. Of course, I have a referral link. So that is up for everyone to go to your website and check out all of those fabulous offerings. I know I've been getting your emails. And so, yes, November is the best time, absolutely, to be able to add these tools to your toolbox. So, if you're someone who's wanting to learn for yourself, if you are a coach or a healer of any kind, and you're wanting to learn more about hypnotherapy and these techniques, an amazing opportunity to do that. And of course, if anyone here is wanting to experience hypnotherapy, if they're interested in getting support and experiencing these techniques for themselves, I'll put my website in there as well. They can reach out to me for that individualized support. I do also have a group hypnotherapy program. I don't know how much I've told you about that,
Hmm.
Mary Lee, but I have my
Oh,
Clarity Collective program where I actually curate and customize guided group hypnotherapy sessions each
awesome.
month. And I have a library of those that are recorded for people. And we use a lot of these techniques that I have learned from you. So thank you so much for all of your knowledge and your wisdom and everything that you share with all of us. I appreciate you very, very much for all of those things. And I wanted to make sure that I also mentioned that we actually have World Hypnosis Day coming up in January. So I am a board member for the National Guild of Hypnotists Washington chapter. So here in Washington State, we are having an event on January 6th. It's an all-day event. So people can come for the whole thing. They can pop in. It's going to be in Montlake Terrace, Washington. We just announced that we are having our World Hypnosis Day event. So I'm sure you will be seeing all that information. I will send you the invitation personally. We would love to have you if you're able to make it. And I will make sure I'm going to be putting out a save the date, but I will be sure to put out the link on all my channels as soon as that becomes available as well, because I think the more people that learn about what hypnotherapy can do for them, the better. People don't often realize a lot of times we sometimes are the last resort for people. They have tried all the things. They've tried all these different therapy modalities. They've tried everything they can figure out on their own, and they just hit a plateau and they just can't get themselves to where they want to be. And hypnotherapy is such an amazing gift, and there's so many tools within it to help people to get those results that they're looking for. And that's why I chose that from the very beginning in my career. That was something I was drawn to, was because I wanted to help people to get to those root causes and get those results faster.
Yes.
What can sometimes take years and decades of just talking on that conscious level can take just a handful of sessions sometimes, right, in hypnotherapy. And so I am just so happy that you were here with us today, that, we both are able to, further this knowledge for people, right? The education that hypnotherapy is such a powerful tool, and it's something that everybody could benefit from. So, Mary Lee, thank you for
Thank
being here with
you.
us. I will definitely be on those calls in January. We were just
Good.
talking about that. And so I love, like I said, as a past student, to be able to come in and participate. So I appreciate you for extending that invitation to me as well. And if anyone has questions, they can reach out to either one of us with those.
Yeah. And I didn't mention that once you're a student, you do get to repeat those
Yes.
calls all the time. So you can
Mhm.
come back and get a refresher. You can come back to get your questions answered, and and just be in the environment again with the new students. So it's
Absolutely. Get to learn from you and from each other. And that's
yes,
one of the things I do love is with your all of your students, we are really a community. And like you said, you have the private community for us to stay connected, where we can refer, we can ask questions. We're able to come into those calls and share our different cases, clients that we, work with. And I feel like I learned so much from that as well. There's the basics, of course, but then when we start putting them into practice, that is when we really can learn so much from each other. And so, yeah, it's definitely been a huge benefit in my career and my practice. And so, cannot say enough good things about working with you.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Marianne.
Oh, thank you. And thank you for having me here today with you. This has been fun.
You are so welcome. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you for being here. Again, our contact information for our websites is in the comments, so you can check that out. You can reach out to either one of us with any questions or to work with us. So thanks again. Take care of yourselves so you can take care of everybody and everything else as your best. And we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.